Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where today we are going to discuss the G&G PCC45. So, the PCC45, what is it and where has it come from? Well, I've seen a lot of people refer to this as a UMP45 evolution, and to be honest, while I can see their thinking, this is an entirely different animal altogether, certainly in terms of airsoft replicas. So, some of you may look at this, if we go for profile, look at this and see the Striker 45 from Call of Duty. And again, there's grounds for that assumption as well. Certainly, it has a very similar form factor. I'd say, honestly, the Striker is probably a little bit stubbier, but that's probably neither here nor there. I actually think this is a homage to the LWRC SMG45, the real-world firearm. If you were to look at these side by side, while this has some slight differences, certainly around the magwell and stuff like that, to the LWRC, I'd really put this down as an unlicensed homage to that particular weapon, if I'm honest. Incidentally, if you would be interested in knowing more about the LWRC SMG45, then I'll put a link up above to the Garen Thumb video on that particular weapon. So, as I say, this is the PCC45 pistol caliber carbine, 45 ACP in designation. As I say, if it was a real world firearm. Obviously, we are dealing with 6mm BBs only. So let's make our way through the weapon, and we can talk about some of the features and where I think it's taken its styling from and styling cues, and certainly where some of its DNA comes from. So as ever, let's start up at the front, and we have this rather chonky looking thread protector. Now obviously, because it's based on a weapon chambered in 45, we have this sort of chonky end to it for the thickness of the rounds, much more so than something like a 9mm round or something like that. So as you can see, we can just undo this thread protector and we reveal 14mm counterclockwise threads. So anything you want to add, I ran a tracer on it at the weekend, that kind of thing. Totally viable. You could have a bloody great flash hider on there, whatever took your fancy. Working our way back, we get fairly standard iron sights, nothing too crazy here. Very similar actually to the setups on ARP9s and the SMC 9 from G&G as well. I think it's just reused equipment really to that effect. The M-LOK handguard is entirely metal, very, very nicely machined, and almost a little bit groundbreaking, I suppose would be the word. Sorry, I had to search for something there. Because this, obviously being a brace system at the rear, we have to have the battery up at the front. And this has a very nice and, dare I say, ingenious system for battery usage and switching. So as you can see on the bottom of the handguard here, we have this cut out just for your finger to insert into, and that allows us to activate this latch, and then the whole handguard will slide forward. And it is a little stiff, I'm not just a mere weakling. But that slides off, nice tight fitment on that. And that reveals our battery compartment. Not a plethora of space, I've got to admit. You might struggle to find batteries to fit this, and certainly in the right sort of ampage and what have you. This does have a MOSFET, so you are capable of taking 11 ones, but just be careful of what you try and squeeze in here. You don't want wires protruding, because this will clip them on the way back down. The battery compartment itself, being metal as well, is slightly sprung outwards, and that's what helps grips this as it goes down over the shaft. It also, you'll see this little cutout down here, which corresponds with the extra on the Picatinny rail here. Those interlock and ensure a nice tight fitment, no wobble or any excess movement of any kind. Let's stick this back on. As I say, it's a slightly tight fit, but that's kind of what you want. You don't want this thing wobbling around during gameplay. As you can see immediately, battery wires will attempt to escape, and we don't want to intrude on those. So as it comes down, we're just going to make sure the little lever at the bottom sticks outwards. That'll lock into place, and back we go. I think you'll agree that out on the field, if you needed to change a battery in a hurry, no tools needed, anything like that, nice system. Perhaps not as intuitive as our normal sort of crane stock batteries at the rear, just removing the plug and what have you. But for certainly something of this design, it's very, very welcome. So as I say, we have a monolithic, what will be deemed, I suppose, a monolithic Picatinny top rail here. Like I say, the feature that really impresses me is that little interlinking section there that helps sturdy up the handguard. We have M-lock rails at the 3, 6 and 9 positions. They do almost appear to come back along the receiver on both sides as well. However, these are just there for aesthetics. You can't actually mount anything this far back, so don't get any stupid ideas. We get a QD sling point provided with the weapon as well, which of course is just attached via M-lock, so you can move it further forward if you needed to, change it up to the other side, sling it on the bottom if you wanted to. It's entirely up to you. Something I wanted to just touch upon while we're talking about the Picatinny and the sort of accessory options. I have noticed with this that the Picatinny appears slightly off size. I got the EOTech to fit fine, and some of the Vortex and what have you. But one particular optic that I love is my UH1. Again, if you go back to the Garen Thumb LWRC video, he's running the UH1 on his. And I really wanted to run it on this. And unfortunately, it just wouldn't fit for love nor money. And I've never had any problem getting it on any other airsoft replica at all. But this one, yeah, it just was not having it. It appears that the Picatinny rail is probably, I'd say, around about 2 mil too wide. And that's fine if you've got optics that are adjustable in their width, because you can just slot it over. I even took to trying to slide it down the Picatinny rail rather than clamp it over the top, just to try and work its way down, but it wasn't having any of that either. So something to bear in mind if you're trying to run a UH1 on this thing. Right, getting back on track. As I say, coming back along the receiver. So we talked about it, the sling point being completely maneuverable for ambidextrous users, and that continues throughout the weapon. So we have ambidextrous charging handles, which we'll talk about more in a minute. And complete ambidextrous controls, from the bolt release to the fire selector, and obviously with an MP5 style mag release down below as well. So very intuitive for all you lefties and righties alike. Talking about the magazines, so it's a very, very nice 100 round mid-cap magazine that comes with the weapon. These are proving a little difficult to get hold of at the time of making this video. One comes with the gun, but getting any spares seems nigh on impossible at the minute. They do produce, and is much more readily available, a 500 round high cap with a little winder on the bottom, akin to the ones that came out for the UMP45 as well. That essentially will turn it into an LMG for all intents and purposes, but I really like these magazines. I think they look the business. You would have seen that it had a follower on it as well, so you get every last BB used up of these 100 round magazines as well. Super flared magwell, looks really nice. As I say, that's probably one of the major differences between the PCC45 and the LWRC SMG45, is this sort of overly flared and stylized magwell. Other than that, I think they are near enough identical, but that's for you to decide if you check out that Garen Thumb video. In terms of controls, very nice. We do have, because this is G&G and everything they provide these days comes with their sort of ETU and MOSFET system, this is hugely fast. This is essentially, for all intents and purposes, an ARP9 in a different box. We have the same gear set. We have the MOSFET trigger system. We can reprogram the trigger for 3-round burst or full auto. And I have to say, it's incredibly snappy. It really is. Very impressed with it, especially when you put it right next to its predecessor, if you like, in the UMP45. It really does feel a different animal altogether. Moving back again, we'll talk about this sling point as well. It's a very chunky and robust sling point. I couldn't actually find anything that would go in it though. It's slightly too wide for my liking. I'm not saying that there isn't a sling, and you've probably got a sling that will mount to it, but none of my slings would actually go through and hook. So a little disappointing with that. The stock at the rear, or the brace, is classic sort of UMP45 in style and manufacturing as well. While it's predominantly polymer, we get some really nice rubberized sections for your cheek weld and for your shoulder support as well. So it feels really robust. There's no wobble. The fit and fitment on the back of the receiver is really nice, gives a real nice positive punch and click when it goes into place, and certainly when folded up, clicks into place, and you get no wobble or of any kind at all. Might have been nice to have the magnetic retention system seen on the SMC9, but I suppose beggars can't be choosers. And for the price that this retails for, I really am impressed with what we do get already anyway. Pistol grip is texturized, not too thick really. It's actually a really comfortable fitment, slightly narrower than the UMP45 and that kind of thing. And yeah, gives a really nice feel. Let's get back to these charging handles, which I mentioned earlier. They extend sideways, and obviously you can pull them back and they will lock the bolt into place, or the mock bolt into place, and allow you access to your hop-up adjuster. And then just with a flick of the bolt release, everything comes back. My only concern with this is these are metal. Or should I say they're metal arms covered in a plastic coating as well. They feel very nice. They feel extremely flimsy though. I have no worry per se, as long as you're conscious of them, of how they're going to function and last the distance, so to speak. I do just worry that if you were to lend this to your kids or anything like that, or to a friend, and they were a little bit rough with it, might not come back in one piece. So something to bear in mind. Not necessarily a fault, but something I wouldn't want you to come across and get on the wrong end of, so to speak. So, performance-wise, where do I see this? Well, as I've already touched upon, this is essentially internally an ARP9. We have a very fast gear set. It's got an incredibly quick rate of fire. The electronic trigger is snappy and responsive, pre-programmable obviously for burst fire as well. And yeah, I can't say that is anything bad. Everyone loves an ARP9's performance these days, and this is really just an ARP9 in my opinion, a much nicer body. Probably slightly more accurate than an ARP9 as well, because these do come with a tighter bored barrel. So yeah, I found this to be a hugely accurate weapon, even in burst mode or full auto. I'm really impressed, I've got to say. This may well become a go-to for me for CQB from now on. I thought it was extremely well equipped for the job, and yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. There's really, other than the charging handles being a little bit possibly weak, I can't find a bad thing to say about this. I really can't. And for the price as well, I think this is a bit of a bargain. Okay guys, that's been my overview of the G&G PCC45. If it's been of any help to you, then as ever, a like and a subscribe is always welcome, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.